All right, so we are here at 21 Soul, live in East Philadelphia at the Ropeadope Room, and once again we have special guests that have come to visit us. I'd like to welcome Adam and Kizzie.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
a pleasure
much for being
to be
here.
It's dope to be at Ropeadope.
All right.
Yeah.
So you guys have come up from Asheville, North
Yeah.
Carolina,
Yeah.
the Santa Cruz of the East.
Had a
Yeah.
great show.
We love Asheville.
Oh my God, those people are so
If it
wonderful.
weren't for the allergens in the air, we might move there.
Yeah.
There we go. And
Seriously.
the reason I bring up Asheville right away is because I usually start the show with how we met, and I think that we were introduced by
Yeah.
Jonathan
Scales.
Jonathan
The great
Scales.
Jonathan
None
Scales.
other. Yeah.
the man with the orchestra.
The dude.
Yeah. So how did you guys connect?
Okay.
originally? How do you
This
know?
is a cool
how do you know
story.
Jonathan?
I was on Facebook looking at Snarky Puppy, their photo feed, and I came across this concert poster, and it was them, and then they had an opening band by the name of Jonathan Scales Orchestra, and I got insta-mad. And I'm like, who is this band I've never heard of doing exactly what I wish I was doing right now? And so I looked up the name Jonathan Scales, and I saw he had a personal Facebook page. And so I think I sent him a friend request. Then I went straight over to YouTube and just watched
Checked
a
out
bunch of his videos.
stuff. Yeah, I remember.
And
when
he had a song
first started
called
playing 'em.
Muddy Vishnu.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that has to be Muddy Waters and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. And so I sent him a message. I was like, tell me about this song you wrote, Muddy Vishnu. I checked it out. You know, I'm a fan. Like, this is dope what you're doing. I've never seen anything like this. Was this Muddy Waters and we started this whole conversation about it. By the end of the conversation, I was saying, have you ever played in Oklahoma City? Because we have our hands in this venue that would be a perfect, way to host you in the city. And he was saying, as a matter of fact, we have an empty date between Dallas and Denver. It was perfect, and the timing was perfect.
So perfect. Yeah.
Amazing.
And so
Providence.
we put a show together. We pubbed the crap out of it, and we did an opening set, which honestly I did not think was good at all. Like, I felt pretty bad about our opening set.
Yeah.
But
We'll cut that out.
at the end of the
great.
set, though, he showed me his phone, and he had sent you an email.
Yeah.
Saying you have to check out
I
this
remember
group,
that
Adam
email.
and Kizzie.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
like, listen, I don't know what you guys are trying to do. I don't know if your plan is to sign with
Yeah.
anybody or anything, but I think you guys have something, and if you want the conversation, I can give you his email. You can stay in touch.
Now, here's the thing
was
about that. Because up to that moment, we both were pretty steadfast on the fact that we did not want to sign with any label because most labels are notorious for taking away creative control. So we knew that we were going to have to do this thing on our own. But we also were in a position where we knew we needed a boost. We needed help. We needed someone to back us up. And when he, were you introduced to Ropeadope before Jonathan Scales or after?
Oh, yeah.
thought
I
it was
knew about
before, right?
Ropeadope from the Philadelphia Experiment record.
Right.
And the Scratch record.
And
that
so-
put
About Scratch earlier.
Ropeadope
We'll
on
get
my
back to that.
radar
Yeah.
back in
Yeah.
high school.
And so then it was like, with Jonathan Scales discovering that he's on Ropeadope, that really amped up the whole thing with connecting with Jonathan Scales. And then that's how I
Of course,
learned.
Snarky Puppy
Right.
was Ropeadope.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because, And so I was introduced to Ropeadope through Adam and through
Gotcha.
Jonathan Vorkis. Yeah. And Snarky
So
Puppy.
Jonathan's an interesting character because he doesn't really, he's a man of few words sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He won't push it. So when I got an email from him, he's like,
Yeah.
you need to
took
pay
it
attention
serious.
to this.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
and of course
okay.
that's kind of the way we do it, but just
Mm-hmm.
in general,
Yeah.
I have nothing but respect for him. So when
Yeah.
you said that, and then that's going to lead me to the next question. So I want to hear from you both what it is you do.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? Because we can talk about it from our side of like it fits this or it fits. We all like to put things in
Right.
boxes when
Right.
it comes out, but I want to hear from both of you.
Yeah.
What do you do? What is
Okay.
your music?
Well, okay, so we call our music Edo music, and there's a whole fascinating story that's still unfolding, which we recently found out. And we'll get into that here in a second. But we call it Edo music, and the explanation has always been Edo is in the middle of the word freedom. So it's really kind of an experiment on black music in America and the hookup, where all these different styles, what they have in common. So my background is I was trained in classical piano, and I was a huge Busta Rhymes fan. Like, this is middle school and on. And then I discovered my dad's jazz record collection. He was a jazz drummer back in the day. Before he's a minister now. He's a pastor. But he was this seriously cold drummer from D.C., and like Marvin Gaye tried to get him to tour with him. Like, he was a bad dude. So I discovered his jazz record, and then so I started putting that language together as well. And I was in church, so I was learning gospel and all of that. And Kizzie's background is music theater and gospel, and she knew all the pop music that I never knew, which is funny. Until we got married, like, I'd never listened to Chicago, I'd never listened to the Bee Gees. There was all this stuff that I had missed because I was just so focused on, I have to learn this, you know.
I have to interrupt you for a second because
Okay.
you just put Chicago and the Bee Gees in the same very close category. Like, I just want to
Yeah.
for a
Not that
second
they're the
for
same.
everybody
Right.
else. Just like,
They're just
I
not
get it. I get a frame of reference.
And they're
Right.
not rap and hip hop, right?
But for me, it was just different because I had been so narrowly focused on the things that I was trying to accomplish in my own musical development. So, all that said, what we do is all of that. So there's a huge jazz strain in our music. There's a huge gospel strain in our music. There's a huge hip-hop strain. But then there's this whole other side to it where we do odd meters and we do, real colorful key changes that are inspired a lot by the Chopin preludes and etudes I grew up playing.
Wow.
So we do a lot of looping. We use a lot of technology in our show. And
is this work? Or I mean, it feels effortless
that's good
from
to
this
know.
side.
Yeah.
Is it work to say, I'm going to mix this and this and this and this and this today?
No.
It's just your natural curiosity.
Yeah, the whole
and
reason it
diversity of
is what it
influence?
is because that's just how we're predisposed to create music. That's what comes out. At any given time, Adam will write a blues song, a jazz song, a gospel song, a hip hop song. It's whatever. And we've said this before in our explanation of what we do is that we serve the music whatever the spirit or the essence of the message or the song that we're creating, we serve it up in the way that's most suitable. So, Train wouldn't have worked if it was a folk song, or a jazz song, but Be Kind, My Dear had to be a jazz song, it had to be a jazz ballad. So it's like, that's how we approach it every time,
Do you find, because you mentioned gospel and you mentioned the church, do you find that process of exploration is like divinity of some sort, like a spiritual process?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
equivalent
but
to
not just that.
what church is.
I wouldn't say just that side of it. I think for me, music in general is that. Like, to me, music is okay. So I grew up in the church, and I'm a Christian, and so my belief system really governs every choice that I make. And so musically, what I'm always trying to do is just communicate something that transcends me, and gets closer to God. Right. And so even if the song isn't preaching, like, I'm not quoting scripture in it, I'm trying to find an expression that is pure, that's has less of me in it. And so going back to your previous question, it's like when we talk about genres, really that's just for the sake of conversation. But the way we process it, I don't think is like, I'm not ever processing, I want to do a hip hop song, but I want to mix the blues in with it. Right. For me, it's like, take Train, for example. It's lifted directly from a Duke Ellington song. Mm-hmm. That whole line comes from Duke Ellington, and we were in a taxi cab in India, and I was listening to it, and when I heard the trombones play that line, I heard a gospel choir singing that, humming it, and so that's what went on the record. But then I heard, like, my dad preaching, and so I wrote a rap influenced by the sound of, like, my father preaching. And then, the chorus is like the gospel choir. So, and it's funky and it's all these things, but it's just kind of like this thing points to that thing points to that, and so the art really is about just taking things out of context. And it's like, this can go here, this can go here, you know.
But it's also about being in tune with things that are above, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, I tried to defy the natural order, and it inspired a song on the new album.
Yeah.
I tried to do exactly what he was saying we don't do. I tried to say, I'm going to write an R&B song.
We're going to do nuts and bolts.
I failed.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Every time, and I came up with like 4 different songs. None of them fit the mold, you know. And I was getting frustrated, and then I went back and I listened to all of them. I was like, but this is good though. And so it actually inspired. I think it's the second track on the next album. It's called "It Was Almost R&B."
It was almost.
It was almost R&B.
The song became about the song not being the song that she was setting out to write.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the paths are different, but it's work and also a sense of intuition.
Yeah.
Right? Is that accurate? To try to get to the source.
Almost every time after I've written a song and I go back and I listen to it, usually shortly after, I forget how I came up with it, how I created it. And often later down the road when I hear it again, I'll be like, oh, wow. How did I come up with that? You know, like, I don't, like, I can't remember. I can tell you some of the more mechanical ways the song came to be, but typically it's harder for me to recall how I came up with it. And I really feel like that's because there's something that's like I'm kind of a vessel in the process.
You're not experiencing it, it's coming to you,
Exactly.
right? You're not experiencing it through vision and sound, right? And rational thought.
Yeah.
But it's work to get yourself into that space, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the job.
But you know what? I think really it's only work because there's work involved in it. Like, if all I could do was just exist and create music, I feel like it would flow easily, you know?
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I really do. I do.
Right.
I feel like, because there was a time, you know, when I was younger and, you know, ideas would always just flow out of me, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, you know, you have a little more room for that because you're not having to worry about paying bills, you know, you're not having to do the adult stuff. You can just be that.
But isn't the language of like what your experience is, doesn't it speak to what you receive when you receive it?
For me, it's definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Like
way.
your challenges, you know, if you go back to the blues, you go back to, you know, pick a name, Mississippi John Hurt, or, you know, you go back there, and it's impossible to separate the experience of the individual from the inspiration and the style and the type of music that came out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I always picture myself if I would be inspired if I were, you know, had nothing to do. But I've learned as I've gotten older that I would probably just be drunk.
Yeah. That's very true. It's like
some people
you
are
need
most
the experiences
inspired.
to have something to write about, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the thing.
And
it
that's all we
fascinates
do.
me that you know, people talk a lot about, you know, and several people on the label from Spanky to Sput and others, you know, there's a silent or sometimes not so silent battle between what's secular and what's spiritual, or what's secular and what's gospel, or what's church. And I think you've really gotten to the exact point of what it's about, you know, without the doctrine or without the.
Well, we also make it a point to not talk about it because it's like it's in the music. So like we go on stage.
Sorry.
When we get on stage, it's like, you know, we're not having a conversation wherein we're trying to lead somebody anywhere because we believe that the message in the music itself, and the music itself has the power to uplift. Yeah. It's enough, you know, and it's better. And that's really why we call our music Edo, because it's about preparing somebody for whatever it is that's about to happen, instead of setting up some expectation that now you have to work against. It's like, oh, we're a rap band. We're just a little bit different. And then now we're up against whatever people's idea of a rap band is. Exactly. You know, the same thing with the message. It's like, we don't need to tell them what they're about to hear with Train. It's better to say, here's a song called Train. It's about freedom. And then just launch into it. Draw your own conclusions.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the record coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're excited.
All right.
Yeah, so excited.
We are too.
Yeah.
We are too. June 13th, you said?
June 8th.
June 8th.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's right.
Trying to run us back.
The funny part is it's not even a Friday.
right.
I pride myself on knowing the date of every Friday in the year.
Yeah.
Because of my role at the label, but I'm losing touch.
Yeah.
You know?
That would have been Friday the 13th. I don't know what that.
There is a Friday the 13th coming up.
Yeah, there was just one.
There's a couple of releases on Friday the 13th. Is that no? That's this Friday. Yeah, coming up.
Oh yeah.
All right, so maybe that's it. June 8th.
Yes.
Title of the album?
The Book of Vito, Volume 3, affectionately referred to as Threedo.
Threedo. I like it. That I can just pass that along. I can remember it. The process. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was different this time around.
Yeah, so
honestly, all 3 albums have been different, which I love. You know, it's like we can offer
the production
something fresh
methods
each time.
fresh every time. So with this one, we spent the last 4 years touring as a duo.
Yeah.
And our setup was I would loop beatbox drums and play keys and key bass and rap, and Kizzie would loop vocals, and we were all synced up that way. So we decided, let's do the record that way, because that's the way we've been performing the song. So all of the drum tracks are my mouth beatboxing, which is directly inspired by the scratch record from way back in the day. So Ropeadope coming full circle there. Yeah. All the basses is my left hand. All the keys is my work.
And the rest of the instrumentation is vocals.
All the orchestra voices is Kizzie, sounding amazing.
Is there a favorite song on there?
I have a song called "On Behalf of the Shaniquas" that I'm really partial to. It's written as a dedication to the survivors of the Daniel Holtzclaw trial. I don't know how much you guys heard about that here, but there was a serial rapist police officer in Oklahoma City who was committing crimes in the community I grew up in.
I know the names, but I'm not.
He was targeting poor black women.
Yeah.
You know, like underprivileged black women.
With sketchy past, you know, a lot of them were prostitutes and on drugs. But we went to the court trials in support of the women. We weren't the only ones.
There was a whole rally behind them.
It was really deep to be in the room and witness the defense delegitimize everything they were saying, attack their characters, you know, and they've gone through this whole ordeal, and now they're having to go through it again in an attempt to get justice that still won't undo anything that's happened to them. Yeah. And they did it, you know, and it just made me... Oh, go ahead.
How did it...
262 years in prison, I think, if I'm calling it. Like, they locked him up.
Wow. Yeah, they gave him all of the books.
And still it doesn't really change.
Nope.
Anything, does it?
Yeah. But so, he wrote this
the song is
extremely pivotal.
It's really just about honoring black women in general, you know.
Beautiful.
It's awesome.
Beautiful.
I think mine is Perimeter.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have actually, I didn't even realize this, but I wrote this song 3 years ago. And we've been performing it live. And so sometimes, you know, after, you know, the repetition sets in, you kind of forget what the song is not as fresh as it was before. But with the album, really getting to flesh out that song fully, it's revived, you know, my love for it.
We love songs. And that's like the only love song on the record.
No.
Well,
Breathless.
no, there's two. Yeah, there's two.
Yeah.
But that's like the...
I feel like you two have a lot of love songs.
Yeah.
That's like...
Just saying.
I think Perimeter is like the most like classic Adam and Kizzie vibe. Yeah. You know, if you can really define it based on what's come before, like Perimeter is like definitely in that lineage of like funky retro futurism kind of thing. And it's like it's all these different things, but somehow it just kind of falls into place and you just bopping along.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I look forward to listening, which I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I mean, I think you sent me some things early. Yeah? No?
Maybe so. Well, no, you haven't heard anything from this record if you haven't listened to the new ones. So.
Because I know you.
Yeah.
And I have the others. before.
I really think you're going to
And I trust you, and now I'm looking forward to being surprised.
It's different too.
Yeah?
It's
Yeah.
different.
Is it different?
It is
It's different.
different. Yeah.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you want to say? Is there any message other than the music itself that you would want to say to people as they approach this record?
Good question. Well, our music is always kind of in a way, a love letter to the listeners. And I say that in the sense that it's not just us, it's not all flowers and roses. Everything that we write is aimed at encouraging people to be the better versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. Even if it's the hard lesson, even it's okay, this is how you can fail, but this is also how you can overcome and achieve.
The hard lesson, right?
Right.
The good one. Yeah.
And that's always where we're just kind of drawn. We're drawn to seeing a better world where everyone's winning,
Yeah.
And that includes in love, that includes in life with our day to day and making the hard choices and so I guess I would just reinforce that, what are you doing in your life that's holding you back? What are you doing in your life that's holding you down, that's keeping you from flying, And get rid of it.
Move forward, right?
Yeah, get rid of it.
I would say for me, I think the most affirming thing I find about our music is that we write it, we record it, and as the years go by, it continues to teach us lessons, which signals to me that at least some of the time we're successful in being vessels for something that is above us, that knows more, that sees more, before us and after us. And so if it can do that for us, I imagine the music has the power to do the same for other people, to enrich them, to show them things that they can learn from. So
that's certainly the hope. Yeah.
Well, I am humbled in your presence. It's amazing to hear what you put into this, and I hope that everyone takes this music as seriously as you both do. And I want to thank you for being here. June 8th.
June 8th.
Ropeadope.
Threedo.
Adam Kizzie. Threedo.
Threedo.
There you go.
thank you very much
for being here.
Of course.
Beautiful.